Welcome back to BCIS 5378, Network Design and Admin. This video is going to talk about the syllabus and about the schedule. So we'll kind of walk you through some of those things and talk about some of the expectations for class, and hopefully show you a schedule that makes a little bit more sense to you after talking about it. So the navigation bar over here to the left, you can see a link to the syllabus and the schedule. And I'm going to go ahead and open both of those up, and we'll talk about them together here in just a little bit. We'll get to the schedule here in just a little bit. We'll go ahead and step through the syllabus now. So some basic information. It's an online class, so there's no physical location to meet or anything like that. There's no specific time to meet. My office, or some of my contact information is all right here. Again, I mentioned in the previous video, don't send me regular emails. If it's course related, I want it housed within our Blackboard shell. That way I've got it all in one location. If you need a job recommendation, you have some other sort of request, you want to ask about other classes, by all means use my regular email address. But for this class, I want you to use the message tool within Blackboard. My actual contact information, my office hours, all those kinds of things, those are fairly generous office hours. That's more than double what we're actually required to keep. I am occasionally called away to various meetings or conferences and things like that, but I'm pretty much here during those times. Phone is probably the worst way to get a hold of me. Email, Blackboard messaging, definitely the best. If it's something that you can tweet out, I get tweets all the time as well, so send me a tweet to draw my attention to something if it's urgent. Let's see, if you want to meet virtually, I do have those virtual office hours we talked about over here in our Blackboard shell that you can click on right there, or in the syllabus you can click on it. It goes to the same place, but it opens up a Blackboard, or excuse me, it opens up a Google Hangout that we can go to and video chat. And the advantage to that is you can show me what you're working on, you can share your screen, I can share my screen, and so on. The test out stuff, the text that we're going to be using and the test out stuff, again, if you want to purchase hopefully you've already got the book. If you don't, you can go directly to the website. You can buy it from them, save yourself some money, and probably get the e-version if you will, if you want, just to kind of speed things up, but it's completely up to you. And then the test out site that we're going to be using this semester. If you've had me for the networking class or one of my other classes that uses test out, you're already somewhat familiar with it. It's a pretty good deal. It's a pretty big break in the price. The discount code, you can find that in our Blackboard shell now. I've moved it to there out of the syllabus just because I make the syllabus available to everybody, and so I try not to promote that discount code quite so much except for our students. Let's see, our description is next. You can kind of read through that. The course is kind of undergoing some changes. I inherited the course a few semesters ago, and I've kind of been modifying it and tweaking it each semester to kind of get it to where I want. And I wouldn't say I'm quite where I want yet, but I'm getting there. So the focus of this class is really over administering Linux. So it's related to networking in the sense of we want to learn to be able to install a server operating system and be able to manage it in that type of an environment where we might need to provide to serve up web pages or act as a print server and things like that. So that's kind of the direction that the course is taking. Again, if you've had me before, some of this should look familiar. It's been updated. We've gotten some new information from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and so I've updated this section in all my classes, and you can see that the field is in pretty good shape. It's growing fairly well as far as network and computer system administrators, so it's really not too bad of a field to be in right now. If you're nearing graduation, if you're looking to make a career change, contact the people over at Career Services. They're really good at what they do. Elena Hefner runs that over there, and you're paying for it in your student fees already, so why not take advantage of that? They can help you develop or create your resume. refine it. They can help you develop a video resume. They can help you search for jobs, and they can help prepare you for interviews with mock interviews. So again, take advantage of that service. It's there for you. You're paying for it. Something else we have is Dreamspark, access to Dreamspark, or sometimes called Microsoft Academic Alliance, depending on who you talk to. And it's free software. That's my favorite four-letter F word, is free. So take advantage of that. There's no better way to get familiar with software than to play with it. Even though this class is Linux, my advice is to download a virtual machine software, much like what we're doing in this class, and install some of the other operating systems that you have available to you through Dreamspark, such as Windows Server 2012. That's how you get familiar with it. So play around with some of those things. Course goals, I'll let you kind of read through those. Students are always interested in course deliverables and the exam, so where are your grades coming from? And we already talked about that a bit back over here in our Blackboard shell. But again, real quickly, we've got various assessments or quizzes. They're all already posted, so you feel free to jump on in and start doing those. Work ahead, not too far ahead, but a little bit ahead. There's also, as part of these assessments, labs that in which you're going to be working through and sending me screenshots. And I think that's one of the more valuable aspects of the class. I'm not looking for perfection there. If you do something and it doesn't work out perfectly, that's okay. Keep taking those screenshots though, and even though it doesn't necessarily work exactly the way you think it's supposed to, go ahead and take those screenshots so that it shows me that you're playing with it and you're trying to work through these problems. Again, there's no better way to get familiar with this stuff than to actually play with it and work with it. If you have a question, send it to the discussion board. See what everybody else is experiencing, and maybe somebody else has an answer for you. Homework, all of those are posted as well. Those are the ones that we're going to get from Test Out. So whereas the labs are, or the assessments part, most of the assessments are actual labs where you're going to be working with the operating system in a virtual environment itself, the Test Out content gives you a little bit safer environment where everything should work fine. You shouldn't have any problems in the Test Out environment. The simulations are all set up already. You can feel free to work ahead. Make sure you're doing them in the proper order, but that's about it as far as that. There's also exams in this class. There's no midterm exam per se. There are a total of 3 exams though. There's the final exam and then 2 practice exams. So the practice exams, the difference is that for the 2 practice exams, they're preparing you for the Linux Plus certification for one, and the second one is preparing you for the Linux Pro certification, which is similar to the final exam that you'll be taking. The differences in those practice exams as opposed to the final exam, the practice exams, you get to take as many times as you want until you get the grade that you want. So they're not valued as much as the final exam, obviously. The final exam is pretty much a one-shot deal. You take the final exam, it's in Test Out, it's the Linux Pro certification. If you pass, you get the certification in addition to your score on the final exam. So that's kind of the difference between those. How things are the points are all laid out. You can take a look at those right here. They're all already posted. How we're going to score things: you score over 90%, you get your A. 80 to 89, you get a B, etc. Late assignments, everything's already posted. There's no reason that anything should be late. So plan on working ahead just a little bit, that way in case something comes up. Let's say for example, you have a job interview that pops up at the last second and it doesn't allow you to complete your work. If you worked ahead just a little bit, that won't be a problem. So work ahead just a little bit to give yourself a little bit of breathing room. Student expectations, you're all graduate students. There shouldn't be any surprises in here. One thing that does escape me sometimes is this one right here. I check Blackboard dozens of times every day, even on the weekends. And I usually respond pretty quickly to most posts. Sometimes discussion board posts I will let go a little bit longer because I want students to respond, but I respond pretty quickly. I need you as students to also check Blackboard fairly regularly, at least once a day. That should suffice. I know a lot of you work, I don't have any issues with that, but it only takes a couple minutes to log into Blackboard and check it. So be sure and do that. So again, there's nothing really all that eye-opening in here. Read through just to kind of get an idea of what some of the expectations are for class, but for the most part, it's common sense. As a good student, you should be familiar with most of that. Academic honesty, or dishonesty, if you want to read the actual policy, you can click on that there. Basically, don't cheat. The first time you're going to get a 0 on the assignment. The second time you're going to get a 0 in the class. The third time you're going to get referred to the university for dismissal from the university. So it's just not worth it. Lastly, disability accommodations. The Office of Disability that we have here on campus issues those accommodations. I cannot do so. I have to treat all students equally, and so as a result, I can't. I'm not qualified to provide you with an accommodation. If you have need for an accommodation, contact our ADA office that we have here on campus. They will do their assessment and provide you with a letter that you can then turn around and provide to me and your other professors. And I'll tell you, the vast majority of the time, we're going to do whatever that letter states, because that's what their specialty is determining what accommodations you need. We're going to follow suit for the most part. I've never not followed an ADA letter. So that is our syllabus quickly. Now over here to our schedule. Personally, I tend to like this schedule a little bit better than what you see in Blackboard. Blackboard can be a little quirky sometimes, and sometimes it's hard to figure out exactly what to do when. So I like the schedule here. So here on the left we have the week. We have the dates in which this week is under. So Monday through Sunday for each week, with the exception of the last week, and last couple of weeks, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The topics that we're covering, so you can see we're hitting the ground running. There's quite a few topics in this semester, so we hit the ground running. When things are due, for the most part, they're all due at 9:30 p.m. Stephenville time each Sunday. And I say for the most part, again, those last couple of weeks, there's some oddball things going on. Why did I pick 9:30? It's a point of contention for students. I know that every professor is a little bit different. Some are 9:30, some are 9:59, some are 11:59. I've chosen 9:30 for a very specific reason. The Blackboard help desk closes at 10 o'clock on Sunday evening. By setting the time at 9:30, it allows you to potentially run into a problem and be able to contact the Blackboard help desk and still have reasonable expectations to get through to them so that they can help you out. So try not to put things off to the last second, but that's kind of the reason that I've done that. I'm trying to avoid the 11:59 due date and having that student that goes to submit something at 11:30 and has a problem and they can't get a hold of the help desk. So that's the reason I've chosen 9:30 as the due date and the due time. As far as this week, you've already gotten the announcement for this week, but what is actually due is the pretest, homework 0, which many of you have already done, AS 0, the syllabus quiz, many of you have already done that as well, and then our first homework assignment, which hopefully some of you guys have already gotten registered in Test Out and have been working on that. The very next one is the very first lab that we've got, the very first assessment, Lab 1, and that's basically just downloading and installing the virtualization software. I'm not that picky about the virtualization software. If you've got one that you're particularly familiar with, that will probably work just fine. I personally like Oracle's VirtualBox. I tend to run into the fewest problems with it, short of something like Microsoft's Hypervisor or something like that. But that's all that one is. So it's a very quick, easy lab to do. The next one, you start installing the operating system itself, so it becomes a little bit more complex. But this very first one's very easy to do. So I try to get everything graded on. Everything's due on Sunday. I try to get everything graded the following Monday, and then after I finished grading, I go and I post the weekly announcement. And so when I do, you'll see this listed this coming week as the things that are due. And so that's kind of how the schedule works out. the last few weeks we've kind of finished everything. We will take, and note the order, we're not doing them in order in test out. We're doing the Linux Plus practice exam first, then we're doing the Linux Pro. The reason I swapped them is the Linux Pro is similar to your actual final exam, and I wanted it to be the most recent to your final exam. Now these are very long exams, very long parts of test out, so give yourself time accordingly. There's nothing else due those weeks, so if you get a chance to finish up a little early, go ahead and start jumping on those so you can practice, because there's lots of parts to them. And then there's the post-test. This last week, because of the way we do final exams, is a little oddball. It's only a few days, so it's not actually a full week or anything like that. I'm going to change that right there. So it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is that week, and then final exams start up on Thursday, the 28th, and I close them on Sunday, May the 1st at 9:30 p.m. So that is our schedule. So that is our schedule and our syllabus. If you have any questions, send me a message in Blackboard. Follow me on Twitter at H.Schuessler PhD. And until next time, have a good one.